The Dupont's bloodline. The Dupont family has shown little consistency in the way their name is spelled. In English, the second syllable is accented, while in French, neither syllable is accented. Historically, the name has tended to be written as Dupont for the family, and Dupont for business purposes. For this article, I have standardized the spelling in accordance with this common distinction. A dynasty of satanic royalty. Writing about the Duponts brings to mind two other prominent families. Recently, John Coleman, a researcher of the global elite, shared his findings about the Danish royal family. His research revealed that members of the Danish monarchy were secretly attending satanic rituals. Notably, 5 modern Danish kings have served as leaders of Freemasonry in Denmark, and the royal family, including princes, have been active Freemasons. Similarly, John Dale's book, The Prince and the Paranormal, delves into the secret occult activities of the British royal family, particularly those involving Prince Charles and other members of the monarchy. Beyond their occult practices, the British royals have openly held leadership roles in Freemasonry. The Duponts share striking similarities with these families. They are a powerful dynasty with a polished public image and a deeply hidden private life. In fact, the Duponts exercise even greater control over media coverage of their activities than the British royal family. One indicator of the Dupont family's connection to satanic practices is the prevalence of intermarriage among their descendants. Few are aware of the critical role bloodlines play in the upper echelons of Satanism. It is believed that blood carries occult power, and only those with the right bloodlines can ascend to the highest levels of satanic hierarchy. The Duponts have intermarried with other influential families, such as the Balls and the Gardners, both of which are known to have connections to the Illuminati and Satanism. For example, George W. Ball, a key figure in the Bilderberg Group, was a permanent member of its steering committee and participated in numerous meetings, including the inaugural one in 1954. He was also a member of the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission. Eliza Cazenove, Gardner, was a sister to a Dupont, while Dorsey Cazenove, Gardner, was a distant cousin. Will Gardner and Bessie Gardner Dupont were also cousins of the Duponts. Moreover, John W. Gardner, who has ties to the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, is a known Illuminatus. The Gardners have been deeply involved in Satanism and witchcraft, further highlighting the web of occult connections surrounding the Dupont dynasty. The complete facts are difficult to discover. At the library, I checked out the book Dupont by William Dutton. This book was a gift to the library from the Dupont Company. I also borrowed Alfred the Dupont by Joseph Fraser Wall, whose author was funded by the trustees of the Jesse Ball DuPont Fund. While both books appeared scholarly, the omissions in their narratives were striking. For a family worth billions, it is not surprising that they can sanitize their history and prevent sensitive information from being disclosed. On May 16, 1893, the press reported the death of Alfred Victor Dupont, commonly known as Fred, with glowing praise. Fred, who had been active in business in Louisville, Kentucky, was well known in the region as a philanthropist. The Louisville Commercial, the city's primary newspaper, published an entirely fabricated account of his death, accompanied by pages of effusive admiration. If not for the integrity of the Inquirer, a Cincinnati newspaper unconnected to today's tabloid of the same name, the public might never have learned the truth. The fabricated story claimed that Fred died of apoplexy while visiting his brother Biderman. To this day, the Dupont family perpetuates this false narrative, despite the true events being well documented and widely known by those involved. The reality was far more scandalous. Both Fred Dupont and his nephew Coleman Dupont were regular patrons of Maggie Payne's high-end bordello, the most exclusive in the area. Fred had refused to assist a distraught prostitute who believed he was the father of her child. In her despair, the woman shot Fred in the heart. Coleman, who was well acquainted with the establishment, quickly retrieved Fred's body, transported it to Biderman's house using a hearse, and arranged for the coroner to falsify the death certificate. The cause of death was officially recorded as effusive apoplexy, a fabrication that was likely incentivized through financial means. Henry Watterson, the editor of the Courier-Journal, later admitted he knew the real story but chose to publish the fabricated account to protect the Dupont family. This anecdote illustrates a broader point. The 13 most influential families maintain tight control over the press and are extremely protective of their public image. Their satanic practices, as well as their mundane sins and personal dramas, are meticulously hidden from public scrutiny. Coleman Dupont, a notoriously hedonistic individual, is one of the Dupont family members strongly suspected of involvement in Satanism. The Duponts have further insulated themselves by relying on trusted intermediaries. One such proxy is Irving Saul Shapiro, a prominent figure representing the family in numerous organizations. Shapiro, a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, has played a pivotal role in coordinating the activities of the Rockefellers, the DuPonts, and the Watsons. He has held various influential positions, including serving as a trustee of the University of Delaware, director of the Jewish Federation of Delaware, and chairman of the DuPont Company. Shapiro also held directorships at IBM, Citicorp, and the U.S. and USSR Trade and Economic Council, among others. His extensive involvement with these powerful families underscores his importance as a key liaison in their collective endeavors. Beginning at the beginning. The biographies of the Dupont family often begin with the marriage of Samuel Dupont to Anne Alexandrine Montechanin in 1737 in Paris, France. Anne, a Huguenot, was also known to be a medium who communicated with the spirit world. She descended from an ancient noble family in Burgundy, France. It is plausible that Anne's lineage contributed to the occult power associated with the Dupont family. Some even speculate that her bloodline may have ties to the House of David. Samuel and Anne's son, Pierre Samuel Dupont, was the first in the family to achieve prominence and the earliest Dupont to be directly linked to the Illuminati. To distinguish himself from other French legislators named Dupont, he later added de Nemours to his name. Pierre Samuel was a prodigy, displaying extraordinary intelligence from a young age. His mother, Anne, taught him the practice of mediumship, though Pierre had to publicly deny this early in life. His father, Samuel, failed to understand his son's intellectual gifts, such as his ability to translate Greek and Latin fluently at the age of 12. When Pierre's mother died when he was 16, he lost the only family member who truly understood him. After enduring yet another harsh beating from his father, Pierre ran away. He narrowly avoided starvation thanks to the intervention of his uncle, Pierre de Montchantin. Initially working as a watchmaker, Pierre's talents quickly drew the attention of prominent members of the Illuminati due to his ability to craft persuasive political and economic writings. Pierre eventually joined the Freemasons and, as many French lodges were during this period, became Illuminized. Despite facing severe financial hardships following the French Revolution, he remained loyal to the Masonic organizations in France, consistently making financial contributions. He also maintained friendships with influential Masons, including the noted astronomer Lalande, who hid him during the Revolution. Pierre Samuel's survival during this tumultuous time was likely due to the protection of powerful individuals. Historian Pierre Joly alludes to this protection, but does not reveal the names of those involved. It is believed that Pierre's role within the inner Satanic hierarchy ensured his safety. One of his protectors was Madame Germaine de Staël, the daughter of Swiss financier Jacques Necker. A close friend of Pierre Samuel, Madame de Staël was known for operating a famous salon and brothel. She was also a confidant of Henri de Saint-Simon, a visionary thinker and occult revolutionary. Saint-Simon, a mentor to Jacques Rigomer-Bazin, was connected to several secretive, occult-influenced revolutionary groups active during Pierre's lifetime. Saint-Simon authored The New Christianity, a work that foreshadowed the rise of international communism. In the early 1800s, he also wrote The Globe and the Reorganization of the European Community, outlining plans for European unity. The Saint-Simonians proposed the year 2000 as the target for establishing a new order. Their vision for a transformed world included constructing the Suez and Panama Canals to foster interdependence among nations, building a high dam on the Nile, and advancing technological and biological innovations. Among these innovations was the creation of androgynous beings, which some claim are the small grays piloting UFOs today. The Saint-Simonians believed that progress would be achieved through a series of revolutions. Henri de Saint-Simon even aspired to father the Antichrist with Madame de Staël, though this never came to pass. Nevertheless, it was Madame de Staël who directly intervened to save Pierre Samuel Dupont's life during the French Revolution. She, along with Necker and Lafayette, later provided him with substantial loans to support his experiments in business and his vision of a communist society. Interestingly, Pierre Samuel also managed Les Éphémérides du Citoyen, the journal of the physiocrats, beginning on January 1, 1769. The title of the journal carries astrological and occult undertones, reflecting the deep intertwining of occult beliefs with the revolutionary ideologies of the time. Pierre Samuel Dupont emerged as a pivotal advocate for a new societal order in France. He was deeply influenced by Plato's vision of governance, which emphasized the role of a philosopher-king. A committed deist, Pierre Samuel often spoke of God, but his conception of the divine aligned with the deistic view of nature as a higher power rather than a personal, interactive deity. This perspective is mirrored in the phrasing used by Thomas Jefferson in the Declaration of Independence, which refers to nature's God. For deists like Jefferson and Dupont, nature represented the ultimate divine force. This ambiguity has led many to assume that Jefferson was referencing the Christian God in the Declaration, though his beliefs were distinctly deistic. This pattern of misunderstanding persists today, with some groups exploiting shared terminology to mislead others. For example, New Age adherents can claim belief in Christ without aligning with Christian doctrine. The same dynamic allowed figures like Dupont and Jefferson to present ideas that could be interpreted through multiple religious or philosophical lenses. The Masonic reference book, 10,000 Famous Freemasons, highlights Pierre Samuel Dupont's accomplishments. At age 23, he published 2 influential pamphlets on finance, capturing the attention of the renowned economist François Quesnay. He became a leading proponent of Quesnay's school of thought, the Physiocrats. In 1774, at the invitation of King Stanislaus Augustus of Poland, Dupont organized a national education system. Later, under Turgot, the French Comptroller General of Finances, Dupont was appointed Inspector General of Commerce. In 1789, he served as a member of the States General, though his conservative views eventually led to his imprisonment in 1792. In 1799, he emigrated to the United States, where, at Jefferson's request, he developed a plan for a national education system. Returning to France in 1802, he played a crucial role in facilitating the Louisiana Purchase Treaty of 1803. Pierre Samuel was instrumental in advancing Masonic and Illuminati goals, including the establishment of centralized national education systems in both Poland and the United States. Such systems were designed to wrest control of education away from devout Christians and place it under secular influence. His close relationship with Thomas Jefferson, a member of the Grand Orient Lodge of the Nine Sisters and likely a high-ranking Illuminatus, proved essential throughout his career. Jefferson provided critical support during pivotal moments, including arranging the first government contract for gunpowder when the Dupont family entered the industry. Benjamin Franklin, another key figure in the Masonic and occult networks of the era, was also a close associate of Pierre Samuel. When Franklin arrived in France in December 1776, one of the first individuals he sought out was Dupont. Over the following year, Dupont frequently visited Franklin's residence in Passy, cementing their friendship. In 1783, Dupont anticipated participating alongside Franklin at the treaty table in Paris. However, John Adams, seeking to minimize France's involvement, orchestrated a separate treaty between the United States and Britain. In the United States, Dupont also maintained a connection with Alexander Hamilton, whose later exposure as a conspirator in various schemes highlights the intricate web of alliances among influential figures of the time. Hamilton served as Dupont's lawyer, further demonstrating the interconnectedness of these key players in shaping the political and economic landscape of their era. The next generation. During the second year of Pierre Samuel Dupont's marriage to Madame Ledy, their son Victor-Marie Dupont was born, with the Marquis de Mirabeau serving as his godfather. Victor-Marie Dupont, 1767 to 1827, later became an aide-de-camp to Lafayette, a prominent Illuminatus, from 1789 to 1792. While it is unclear if Victor was involved in Freemasonry before the family emigrated to the United States in 1800, he quickly became active in Masonic circles after arriving. His Masonic career, as recorded in Masonic archives, included the following milestones. 1808. Signed a petition to establish a Masonic lodge in Angelica, New York. 1813. Joined Washington Lodge, No. 1 in Delaware. 1814. Became a member of the Knights Templar in Wilmington, Delaware. 1819. Served as Grand Marshal of the Grand Lodge of Delaware, repeatedly in 1822, 1823, 1825, and 1827. 1825. Appointed Grand Treasurer of the Grand Lodge of Delaware. Pierre Samuel had 2 other sons, Paul François, who tragically died at just 1 month old, and Eleuthère Irénée Dupont. Like his father, Eleuthère Irénée was deeply involved in Illuminist activities and became a prominent and outspoken Jacobin. The Jacobins were a revolutionary force birthed from Freemasonry. The Duc d'Orléans, Grand Master of the Grand Orient of France, along with influential Freemasons such as Talleyrand and Mirabeau, played critical roles in founding the Jacobin movement. Initially known as the Club Breton, the organization eventually became the Jacobin Club, a more radical and Illuminized form of Freemasonry. Key figures within the Jacobins included Georges-Jacques Danton, president of the Jacobin Club and a member of the prestigious Nine Sisters Lodge, whose name references the Pleiades. Lafayette, a prominent Illuminatus, and other major players in the French Revolution were also Jacobins. According to historical accounts, a secretive council of 300 influential Freemasons covertly governed France during this tumultuous period. Robespierre, a central figure in the Revolution, was both a Freemason and an Illuminatus. He was a disciple of both Adam Weishaupt, the founder of the Illuminati, and the philosopher Rousseau. Similarly, Prussian Baron Anacharsis Cloots, another Illuminatus and Freemason, deeply understood and furthered Weishaupt's ideological goals. These men laid the groundwork for what later became socialism and communism. The French Revolution's inception is attributed to the Satanic hierarchy, which orchestrated it as part of a broader agenda. In November 1793, this agenda revealed its true nature during the anti-religion campaign, where priests were executed, and the motto, "Death is an eternal sleep," was publicly displayed. Eyewitness accounts describe Satan's intricate plans being entrusted to a select few at the top of this hierarchy, with seemingly coincidental events aligning under a diabolical design. Eleuthère Irénée Dupont, a fervent deist who worshipped nature, was a significant figure in the Jacobin movement. He served as a primary printer for the Jacobins, facilitating the dissemination of their revolutionary ideas. After emigrating to the United States, Eleuthère Irénée Dupont established one of the world's finest gunpowder factories. His expertise and influence led to his appointment, alongside his associate Nicholas Biddle, as a director of Alexander Hamilton's United States Bank. This national bank also included John Jacob Astor among its directors, further illustrating the interconnected web of powerful individuals shaping the nation's financial and industrial framework. Stephen Girard and his role in the Second Bank of the United States. Stephen Girard, 1750 to 1831, a French-born Mason initiated into Freemasonry in Charleston, South Carolina in 1788, played a significant role in establishing the Second Bank of the United States in 1816 and served as one of its directors. By the time of his death, Girard had amassed an astonishing fortune of $9 million, a sum that remains somewhat mysterious in origin. A sea captain by trade, he was known for his generosity, particularly his contributions to Masonic charities. Early years of the Dupont family in America. On January 3, 1800, the Dupont family arrived in the United States with ambitious aspirations, including the creation of a new society. While Pierre Samuel Dupont and his son Victor Marie pursued lofty schemes that ultimately failed, Eleuthère Irénée Dupont found success by founding a gunpowder business in Delaware. His achievements were rooted in several critical factors: state-of-the-art technology. The French government provided him with top-secret machinery and technical plans to produce the highest quality gunpowder of the time. They also sent skilled manpower to support his endeavors. Strategic connections. The Duponts benefited from influential allies who assisted with financing, acquiring land, and securing business opportunities. Personal dedication. Eleuthère Irénée was a man of intelligence, diligence, and patience. These qualities ensured the family's rise to prominence rather than fading into obscurity. The Dupont family is often regarded as a dynasty, a term well suited to their legacy as Illuminati kings, though much of their influence has operated in the shadows. The head of the family has traditionally held significant power, with speculation that some may have participated in esoteric or satanic rituals at the highest levels of secrecy. While the public heads of the family may not have represented these clandestine roles in modern times, the following individuals have officially led the family across generations. Pierre Samuel Dupont, 1739 to 1817. First generation, the family's patriarch. Eleuthère Irénée Dupont, 1817 to 1834. Second generation, founder of the Gunpowder Empire. Alfred Victor Dupont, 1834 to 1850. Third generation. Henry Dupont, 1850 to 1889. Third generation. Henry A. Dupont, fourth generation. The Duponts maintained a strong internal structure, with family councils granting voting rights to women. They practiced a communal ownership model, distributing resources based on individual needs and contributions to the family enterprise. Like other powerful families such as the Rothschilds, the Duponts arranged strategic marriages to consolidate power and wealth. Many early unions were between cousins, including the marriage of Sophie Madeleine Dupont to her cousin Samuel Francis Dupont in 1833. The family also maintained a close alliance with the Cazenove family, another prominent group with ties to influential figures like Thomas Jefferson and Albert Gallatin. Albert Gallatin, a close associate of the Duponts, claimed descent from the ancient Roman consul Calatinus. This claim highlights the black nobility's meticulous tracking of their bloodlines, reinforcing the idea that the world's current rulers are often direct descendants of ancient elites. During the War of 1812, the DuPont's gunpowder factory, the primary powder supplier in America, became a potential target for British forces. Remarkably, the factory was never attacked, despite its strategic importance. To defend their operations, the family organized a local militia called the Brandywine Rangers, whose flag featured a beehive on white silk, a symbol of industriousness and unity. In the summer of 1825, the Dupont hosted Lafayette in Delaware, further cementing their status as a family of considerable influence and prominence. One notable visitor to the Dupont family was Henry Clay, the American Secretary of State and leader of the Whig Party. Clay, a distinguished Freemason, served as Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Kentucky and Grand Orator for the same lodge from 1806 to 1809. He was among the Freemasons who convened a high-level meeting in the U.S. Senate chambers on March 9, 1822. If the Duponts had already established themselves as one of the most influential families of the time, it is possible that Clay sought their counsel to shape the nation's trajectory. The Duponts also played a role in the construction of Washington, D.C., contributing to its design, which incorporated numerous occult patterns. Eleuthère Irénée Dupont had a daughter, Sophie Madeleine Dupont, 1810 to 1888, named after her mother. Sophie was a prolific writer and artist, leaving behind diaries, extensive correspondence, and hundreds of sketches. Her drawings often included caricatures and humorous depictions of people, offering a glimpse into her artistic talent and the Dupont family's lifestyle. One of Sophie's notable sketches portrayed a family member dressed as Satan, complete with long paper horns and a tail. In a letter dated December 12, 1829, Sophie humorously noted that the costume was mistaken for Old Nick. Another drawing accompanied a letter to Clementina Smith on July 21, 1837. This self-portrait depicted Sophie being carried to her bath in a special chair by black servants, reflecting the Dupont family's immense wealth and privilege shortly after settling in Delaware. Alfred Victor Dupont, who succeeded as the head of the family and the gunpowder factories, was married to Meta, a follower of Swedenborgianism. This mystical religious movement was based on the teachings of Emanuel Swedenborg, a Swedish Freemason. Meta organized a Swedenborgian church in their community, and Alfred Victor appeared to support her spiritual pursuits. By the Civil War era, the Dupont family shifted from their deist roots to align more closely with the Episcopal Church. Joanna Smith Dupont played a pivotal role in this transition. The family's connections extended to the influential Cazenove family, Episcopalians who may have had Illuminati ties. Christ Church was established on Dupont communal property to serve the family and their associates. By the time of the Civil War, the Dupont family had consolidated significant control over Delaware. Alongside allied families such as the Bayards, Salisburys, and Greys, the Duponts dominated the state's political and economic landscape. This influence only grew stronger in the 20th century, with Dupont allies placed in key positions of power. The Dupont gunpowder factories quickly rose to prominence after their founding in 1802, producing the highest quality gunpowder in the world. From the Tripolitan War in 1802 to the recent military actions in Somalia, the United States military has relied on DuPont gunpowder for its operations. Henry DuPont, 1812 to 1889, known as Boss Henry, took control of the gunpowder manufacturing operations at the age of 38. Despite his authoritarian leadership and dominance over the industry, his outdated and rigid management style eventually led to the decline of the company. After Henry's death, a triumvirate consisting of Alfred Louis Dupont, Pierre Samuel Dupont II, 1870 to 1954, and Thomas Coleman Dupont, 1863 to 1930, revitalized the Dupont enterprise. This trio modernized the factories, acquired competing gunpowder manufacturers, and established an absolute monopoly in the munitions industry. Their efforts not only restored the family's businesses, but also solidified their position as leaders in American industry. Tragedy and triumph, the Dupont family in the 19th century. On August 22, 1857, the Dupont family suffered their first fatality from an explosion when Alexis Dupont lost his life. Despite their reputation for prioritizing safety in their gunpowder factories, the Duponts could not entirely prevent the deadly explosions that plagued the industry. These catastrophic incidents underscored the inherent risks of gunpowder manufacturing. R. Page Williamson, a tutor hired in 1852 to educate the Dupont children, remarked in his letters that the children were exceptionally spoiled and difficult to manage. By 1872, Henry Dupont had taken a significant step toward consolidating the industry by bringing together Laughlin and Rand and Hazard Powder Company to form the Gunpowder Trade Association. This association effectively eliminated competition between the three largest gunpowder manufacturers, creating a monopoly. Over time, the Dupont absorbed these companies, along with numerous smaller ones, solidifying their control of the market. The Dupont family's pursuit of monopolistic dominance reflected a broader ethos among elite families of the time. Contrary to the principles of capitalism, their actions leaned heavily on monopolization, which paralleled the centralized control seen in communist systems. When they described their monopolistic strategies, they framed them as efforts to bring order and stability to a fragmented and chaotic industry. In 1889, Alfred Thurst Dupont attempted to acquire the secrets of smokeless gunpowder production by bribing French military officers. However, his efforts were thwarted, as the officers feared the severe consequences of betrayal. Similarly, British officials were uncooperative. The Dupont's success was not without personal struggles. Fred Dupont was murdered, while William Dupont, 1855 to 1928, endured an unhappy marriage to his cousin May Dupont. Another family member, Louis Cazenove Dupont, a bright and promising young man, tragically committed suicide in the Wilmington Club library. Alfred Dupont was accidentally shot in the face during a hunting trip. The family also grappled with broken marriages, mental illness, and other hardships. When Mary Bellin married into the family, she introduced Jewish lineage into the Dupont bloodline. The family's integration into the emerging military-industrial complex in the 19th century required collaboration with the U.S. Army and Navy. At the military's urging, the Duponts entered into a contract with Koepel Company of Belgium for smokeless powder. However, the formula proved inferior to American standards, prompting the Duponts to develop their own formula and establish a new production facility in Carneys Point, New Jersey. By the turn of the 20th century, the Dupont family celebrated their first 100 years in America with a grand banquet. Over 100 descendants of Pierre Samuel Dupont attended the event, which was hosted in a specially constructed building. Each guest received a commemorative gold coin as a gift to mark the occasion. The centennial celebration on January 1, 1900, highlighted the family's enduring legacy. Despite their successes, the Duponts maintained a remarkable level of secrecy. When Eugene Dupont, the family's chief executive, passed away, even the family members had little knowledge of the company's worth or assets. At the time, the Duponts operated powder plants in Pennsylvania, Delaware, Iowa, and Tennessee. Today, their wealth and assets remain even more concealed, both from the public and, in some cases, from themselves. While the Duponts achieved their fortune through hard work and production, earning a commendable reputation compared to some other elite families, their tight control over worker compensation and resources sometimes drew criticism. Nevertheless, the Dupont dynasty has demonstrated a unique ability to sustain itself and adapt, becoming increasingly invisible over time. One intriguing aspect of elite affiliations is the Society of the Cincinnati, mentioned by an individual who had briefly been involved with the Illuminati before becoming a Christian. They recalled the name but had little knowledge about the organization, apart from its potential connection to the Illuminati. Upon investigation, the Society of the Cincinnati initially appeared to be a genealogical group for descendants of Revolutionary War soldiers. However, its deeper significance and potential ties to secret societies remain a subject of speculation and intrigue. As my long-term research into the Society of the Cincinnati progressed, it became evident that this organization might hold deeper significance than initially assumed. One reference described it as follows: "The Society of the Cincinnati, 1783. It is likely that no Englishman feels greater pride in being a Knight of the Garter, nor a Scotsman as a Knight of the Thistle, than an American feels in being a member of the Society of the Cincinnati." This revelation was astonishing. How could such a prestigious organization be so widely unknown? To add to the intrigue, I recognized the significance of the Order of the Garter, an elite inner circle within the Order of St. John of Jerusalem, itself the British arm of the Knights of Malta. The Knights of the Garter are considered key leaders of the Committee of 300 and are linked to diabolical figures. For instance, Lord Peter Carrington, a member of the Satanic Order of Osiris, was also a Knight of the Garter. Historical figures like Lord Palmerston, who outwardly appeared as devout Christians but secretly practiced dark rituals, were similarly associated. The Society of the Cincinnati, though less notorious, was accused by the Massachusetts legislature of fostering a hereditary aristocracy designed to subvert the Republic. Deemed dangerous, the society nonetheless remained obscure to the general public. Few have even heard of it, let alone suspected its alleged influence. When the United States was first established, it operated under the Articles of Confederation, a loose alliance of independent states, each with its own currency and laws. The federal government functioned as a weak, league-like entity. The Society of the Cincinnati played a significant role in advocating for a stronger central government, a national bank, and other consolidations of power. Baron von Steuben, a Freemason, is credited with founding the organization, and Pierre L'Enfant, another Freemason and the designer of Washington, D.C.'s occult-inspired city layout, created its emblem. Notably, every U.S. president has worn the Society's Diamond Eagle jewel, signifying its influence. Members included prominent figures like Benjamin Franklin, an honorary member, the Marquis de Lafayette, George Washington, and James Monroe. At least 15 presidents have been associated with the Society, either as honorary or hereditary members. Many high-ranking Freemasons who served as officers during the Revolutionary War were original members. Among them were Henry Beekman Livingston, James Mann, and Hardy Murphy. Murphy also served as Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of North Carolina. The involvement of these elite figures, who dedicated substantial time and resources to the Society, suggests a purpose far beyond commemorating Revolutionary War officers. The stated mission of the Society of the Cincinnati is to render permanent the cordial affection subsisting among the officers. While this might justify an organization of war veterans, it hardly explains the ongoing commitment of their descendants more than 2 centuries after the Revolutionary War. By 1983, the Society had a reported membership of 2,800, with chapters across the United States and even an affiliate organization in France. How could an exclusive group of descendants maintain such robust activity and international alignment? The stated purpose seemed insufficient to explain its persistence. The deeper I delved, the more I suspected that the Society's true objectives were obscured, particularly when considering its alignment with prominent figures in Freemasonry and its connections to occult symbolism. The breakthrough in linking the Society of the Cincinnati to the Illuminati came during my research into the Dupont family. The connection emerged through Leighton Coleman, who was married to Frances Fanny Elizabeth, the daughter of Alexis et Renée Dupont. Alexis, who tragically died in an accident, belonged to one of the most powerful bloodlines in America. Occult power is believed to flow through both maternal and paternal lines, making Coleman's association with the Duponts worth investigating. His involvement, coupled with the Society's secrecy and its ties to influential figures, illuminated a potential network that bridged the Illuminati and the Society of the Cincinnati. Leighton Coleman became the Bishop of the state of Delaware for the Episcopal Church. He was a key figure in the temperance movement, which I had already discovered to be controlled by the Illuminati. Furthermore, Leighton served as the Grand Chaplain of the Grand Lodge of Freemasons in Pennsylvania, Grand Prelate of the Knights Templar, and Chaplain of the Delaware Society of the Cincinnati. Another prominent family among the top 13 Illuminati families is the Kennedy family, which also has ties to the Society of the Cincinnati. Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy Onassis, former wife of both John F. Kennedy and Aristotle Onassis, had a grandfather named Major Bouvier. He invented a largely fictional family genealogy, which he self-published in 1925 under the title Our Forebears. This fabricated genealogy allowed him and his sons, Bud and Black Jack, to gain membership in the Society of the Cincinnati. All three Bouviers took great pride in their memberships, often displaying boutonnieres to signal their affiliation. The three cousins who saved the Dupont Company in 1902. The three Dupont cousins, Alfred, Coleman, and Pierre, who collectively took control of the gunpowder factories, later found themselves embroiled in intense family conflict. Alfred divorced his wife to marry his cousin, a union that was met with disapproval from Coleman and other family members. This caused significant family infighting. In 1913, Alfred, in a fit of anger, successfully lobbied the Delaware legislature to pass a special law changing the name of his first wife's son, out of spite. The law passed the House in just 4 hours, but it failed in the Senate by 2 votes after other Duponts learned of Alfred's maneuver. Alfred also built his cousin wife Alicia the most expensive house on the East Coast at the time. Estimated to have cost at least $2 million in 1910, the actual cost may have been much higher. The mansion, named Nemours, was situated on a 400-acre estate, enclosed by a 9-foot wall with broken glass embedded in the concrete on top. Beyond the 400 acres, the entire estate spanned 2,000 acres. From 1906 to 1920, the Dupont family split into 2 factions that engaged in a bitter internal conflict. Alfred Dupont led a political campaign aimed at opposing the corrupt forces of Coleman Dupont. Up until that point, politics, voting, and vote counting in Delaware were thoroughly corrupt. By April 1918, Alfred had defeated Coleman for control of Delaware's political landscape. In 1911, Alfred purchased the Wilmington Morning News, the area's primary daily newspaper. By 1916, after blocking his uncle Henry A. Dupont from being re-elected, Alfred gained control of 9 Delaware newspapers. In 1932, during a trip to Egypt, Alfred found a dog named Mummy, which he believed to be his familiar spirit. According to a biography I read, Alfred proudly stated, "Only I had a reincarnated Egyptian mascot who could produce wonders as great as those of Aladdin's genie." Alfred himself wrote a letter to Reverend Baker P. Lee in May 1932 discussing his familiar spirit, Mummy. "I have 1 or 2 more jobs for Mummy, and then I will give her a vacation before I put her to work again." He also wrote at least 1 other letter describing Mummy's magical powers, which were mentioned in correspondence with Mrs. Cazenove Lee, Jr. Alfred Dupont passed away in 1935. His widow, Jessie Ball Dupont, and Ed Ball took over control of his estate. Ed Ball greatly increased Alfred's fortune and became the most powerful man in Florida. By the 1950s and 1960s, Ed Ball's wealth surpassed the billion-dollar mark. In the late 1960s, political opponents targeted Ed Ball's wealth through new legislation and investigations into the misuse of his funds hidden within foundations. Ed Ball died in 1981, and in 1985, his widow claimed that Ed's sister, Jessie, had murdered Alfred Dupont in 1935. She said that, while Ed was alive, she had been too afraid to reveal the truth about Alfred's death. Forbes magazine published this story in October 1965. In 1910, T. Coleman Dupont went into business with President Taft's brother, Charles P. Taft, a member of the Skull and Bones Society, to build the McAlpin Hotel in New York City. Taft's other brother, Horace, was a member of the Order of Skull and Bones. In fact, the Taft family, which traces its origins to Braintree, Massachusetts, in 1679, played a pivotal role in founding the Skull and Bones Order. And at least 8 members of the Taft family have been inducted into the society. This was the first of a series of luxury hotels. Coleman Dupont later acquired the New York Equitable Life Assurance Society, which was the largest insurance company in America at the time. The acquisition of Equitable Life undoubtedly brought Coleman into contact with other members of the Illuminati elite. He was a member of the prestigious Rittenhouse Club in Philadelphia and held directorial positions in several organizations, including Union National Bank in Wilmington and Central Coal and Iron Company, as well as other coal and iron companies. T. Coleman Dupont is also well known for his role in the DuPont gunpowder business, which he led for many years. During World War I, the DuPont company made a significant profit, amassing a $9 million surplus in its treasury. As a result, DuPont acquired General Motors. The DuPonts also expanded into the chemical industry. When the U.S. government seized the German Die Trust, the DuPonts were granted the patents, allowing them to build a vast chemical empire. They became involved in the production of synthetic materials such as shatterproof glass, paints, rayon, nylon, dyes, photographic film, rubber, chemicals, and pharmaceuticals. The only significant competition DuPont faced in the chemical industry was Dow Chemical Company. Alfred Victor DuPont, son of Alfred Thurst DuPont, served as a private in the Marines during World War I and served aboard several ships. However, during World War II, he was appointed as a consultant to the Joint Chiefs of Staff from 1943 to 1945. Alfred Victor was an Episcopalian. Emile Francis DuPont, born 1898, graduated from Yale University, as many DuPont family members have. He was a significant layperson within the Episcopal Church. Pierre Samuel DuPont was a member of the American Philosophical Society and was awarded the rosette of an officier de la Légion d'honneur. The details of how he received this honor remain unclear. He served on Delaware's State Board of Education from 1919 to 1921 and was president of General Motors from 1920 to 1923 when he handed over leadership to Alfred P. Sloan, Jr. Pierre Samuel DuPont introduced the buddy system, where DuPont and GM's management worked in close collaboration. DuPont played a key role in saving GM from collapse after World War I and has remained involved with the company ever since. Robert L. DuPont, Jr. is a research psychiatrist who conducted studies at Harvard University. He served as the U.S. delegate to the United Nations Commission on Narcotic Drugs from 1973 to 1978. His expertise lies in understanding the effects of drugs on individuals, a focus of his research. Frances Marguerite DuPont, born in 1944 in Duluth, Minnesota, is deeply involved in genetics research. Those of us aware of the intentions of such individuals are alarmed when we see prominent genetic researchers connected to powerful, often controversial families. Almost every American uses a DuPont product daily. The scope of DuPont Industries is astonishing. Anything involving chemicals falls under their production. From herbicides and fertilizers for agriculture to cosmetics and nylons for women, DuPont manufactures chemicals used in countless industries, including textiles, cleaning fluids, and dry cleaning products. Most of us interact with DuPont products on a daily basis, often without even realizing it. General Motors, the explosives and gunpowder monopoly, and DuPont's extensive chemical empire give the family tremendous financial leverage. The DuPonts are also closely tied to the oil industry, as many of their products are derived from petroleum. In 1940, the DuPont family was valued at $5 billion. Today, their wealth likely exceeds many billions of dollars, not to mention the immense power they wield. The survival of the U.S. military, reliant on DuPont-produced munitions, is an indicator of the family's influence. The DuPont Company as a tool for the New World Order. Though the DuPont companies, primarily E.I. DuPont de Nemours and Company, which had revenues of $38.7 billion in 1991, are managed by many executives who are not family members, the DuPont family remains a quiet force behind the scenes. Many of these executives share a similar worldview with the DuPonts. It is evident that the DuPont companies are being leveraged to further the goals of the New World Order. One example of this influence is the indoctrination of DuPont workers. I received a video documenting the Pecos River training conducted near Santa Fe, New Mexico, where DuPont employees from the East are sent. I also read a magazine article discussing this training titled, "Go Take a Flying Leap for the Company, from Successful Meetings," June 1992. A Christian brother working for DuPont in Tennessee has been secretly undermining the company's efforts to turn workers into New Agers. With the help of other Christians at the plant, this individual gathers information about the company's plans and educates workers on how New Age ideologies are being used to subvert their thinking. The company has even changed its terminology, referring to its workers as initiates rather than employees, signaling a deeper level of indoctrination. The workers at the DuPont plant were originally slated to attend the Pecos River training, but due to the exposure of their New Age subversion, many are now refusing to be led blindly. A Christian brother who works at DuPont sent me a video of the Pecos River training, which includes scenes where participants, who aren't exactly strangers, engage in acts of intimacy, such as kissing. The training is designed to break down individuality and foster groupthink, often through practices intended to promote closeness. Initiates are taught to not slay the ego, as it is your servant. A magazine article from June 1992 discusses 5 types of thinking that DuPont is trying to instill in its workers. 1. Lateral thinking. 2. Metaphoric thinking. 3. Positive thinking, also called visualization or occult witchcraft. 4. Association triggers. And 5. Rapturing and interpreting dreams. Additionally, Dupont introduced an employee environmental awards program where workers can earn money by submitting suggestions related to environmental initiatives. Many readers of this newsletter are already aware of how the environmental movement is manipulated and controlled by the elite. One of the initiatives proposed by former Secretary of Education Alexander was to shift education from schools to factories, a step the Illuminati seeks to implement in their larger agenda to create a totalitarian system. Interestingly, Dupont has been involved in this shift by leading Delaware's Business Roundtable (BRT) task force, which encourages students to attend seminars at Dupont facilities. Dupont is also advancing artificial intelligence (AI) technologies. Their neural networks are now sophisticated enough to learn from their mistakes. This represents the company's involvement in the transformation toward a brave new world. They were pioneers in the creation of Fax Now, a rapid customer service program that offered fax on demand. Furthermore, Dupont is expanding its global reach, with plants in South America, Mexico, Canada, the US, Korea, Japan, and several European countries. They are exploring ways to enter the Commonwealth of Independent States, CIS, the region formerly known as the USSR, although they have already faced some financial setbacks in this endeavor. Dupont and Imperial Chemical Industries, ICI, which is linked to the Warburg family, have exchanged plants. ICI, which had been headquartered in Wilmington, Delaware, swapped its nylon plant for DuPont's acrylic plant in the U.S. This swap was designed to help both companies enhance their international presence. According to one source, this move was made to focus resources on businesses where each can develop stronger global positions. As a result of the swap, DuPont now controls 43% of the European market for nylon fibers used in carpet manufacturing. In Bad Homburg, Germany, DuPont has constructed a $20 million research center. Recent reports show that DuPont is investing $1.27 billion in research, some of which is in risky areas, where it is unclear how the research will generate financial returns. However, the company has acknowledged these risks. The Aviation Week and Space Technology issue from October 26, 1992, discusses the advanced composite materials DuPont is producing for state-of-the-art space and aviation vehicles. It is possible that some of these materials are used in secret UFO bases, and DuPont may be supplying parts for these covert anti-gravity machines. The article also mentions that DuPont is collaborating with Boeing Defense and Space Group, Lockheed Aeronautical Systems, General Dynamics, and Hercules Inc. on aeronautics projects. Given Boeing and Lockheed's involvement with the production of flying saucers, this could indicate DuPont's participation as well. The article notes that DuPont has been a leading supplier for advanced U.S. military programs. One example of DuPont's cutting-edge materials is XTC, the first recyclable Class A finished thermoplastic sheet molding compound for horizontal exterior body panels. This material, made from a flexible, porous polyethylene terephthalate impregnated long glass fiber, was selected by General Motors for use in their air intake manifold on certain 1993 V6 engines. The CEO of E.I. Dupont de Nemours and Company, Edgar Woolard, took over in 1989. His innovative leadership will be crucial as the company navigates the upheavals of the 1990s. One of the Illuminati's plans is to introduce changes into our major city water supplies. Interestingly, DuPont has research facilities and a Chambers work facility in Deepwater, New Jersey, both of which focus on water treatment. Today, the Dupont family is represented at the 6th Illuminati level within the Pilgrim Society. While I am convinced their influence reaches even higher levels, I need more information and research to expose it fully. One source claims that the DuPonts are among the 3 most influential families in the United States today. Whether one is aware of the secret satanic influence of the DuPonts or not, it is undeniable that this family wields incredible power in the United States, far beyond what most can comprehend. Every aspect of our daily lives is impacted by products ultimately controlled by the DuPont family. For those who subscribe to the theory that the world is divided only between the Rothschilds and Rockefellers, the DuPont family, independent of the other major power families, dispels that notion. To quote Carl Schriftgieser in his book Families, the DuPonts of Delaware constitute a definite dynasty, perhaps the most complete dynasty ever established in this republic, one which seems destined to continue its kingship for generations to come. Today, there are 700 members of this family. Every time a package of cigarettes is opened, The simple tearing of the tab is a gesture of tribute to the Duponts, and every time a great gun booms, with whatever cost to life or property, it echoes merrily in the feudal stronghold of this mighty clan. We must end with the direct statement that the Duponts today rule Delaware with an iron hand, that their interests affect the daily lives of each one of us in some way, and that the family moves on. It is, today, the great American dynasty. Close, unassailed, it keeps to itself, hides its scandals, boasts not of its good works, but continues, within American democracy, to exert its own indomitable way. Several years ago, I developed a friendship with a man from Silverton, Oregon. From that friendship, I began to sense that something was unusual about the town. Later, through my contacts, I discovered that Anton LaVey's church had established its Oregon headquarters in Silverton. I suspect this was because the town already had some occult activity. About 25 to 30 miles southeast of Silverton are the towns of Mill City and Gates, located in a wooded area with beautiful waterfalls and a large park. The story now shifts back to Portland. 2 years ago, a man who had read my book, The Watchtower and the Masons, told me that he knew John Lawrence. He said that John and I would likely hit it off and that he would arrange for us to meet. One of Portland's weekly papers, the Willamette Weekly, seems to be free from the suffocating control of the New World Order, unlike our daily paper, the Oregonian. A research writer for the Willamette Weekly, using John Lawrence's work on the Skull and Bone Society, published a long article about the organization. John Lawrence and I would have been a natural fit as friends, since we both investigate secret satanic groups. However, the man who claimed to know John Lawrence later told me, after promising to introduce us, that John had disappeared. Moreover, his initial openness turned into reluctance, and he seemed unwilling to have much to do with me, suggesting I had touched on some very sensitive secrets. Here's what I was able to uncover. Several satanic groups are active in the Gates, Oregon area. John Lawrence was particularly interested in the meaning behind the number 322 inches associated with the Skull and Bones Society. He believed that this number connected the Skull and Bones with other secretive groups. John and 2 other researchers moved to Mill City to investigate the satanic activity in the area. According to an inside source, the CIA shot 2 of those researchers while they were in Mill City conducting their investigations. The CIA then began searching for John Lawrence, who is now in hiding. People in the Mill City area were too afraid to speak openly about these events, but with considerable effort, I managed to gather some details. It seems that an occult group purchased a ranch near Gates, Oregon, and the leader of this group is Jim Cole. The ranch is not registered in his name. The last police raid against occult activities in the area occurred over 5 years ago, and it appears that Satanists are now in key positions within both Mill City and Gates. There may even be one on the local police force. Finally, the CIA seems to be deeply involved and sensitive about the occult activities in the region. One reaction to my Dupont article came from someone whose mother-in-law works for Dupont in Pennsylvania. This individual asked a few questions and discovered that her mother-in-law is an actual witch, not in the stereotypical sense, but in the practice of witchcraft. This woman is a close friend of the Duponts and has been protected from being fired by the company. What stands out to me in all of this is that my article helped raise awareness among others, enabling them to recognize what's happening and begin their own investigations. Once people start to connect the dots, they'll begin to see the influence of the New World Order all around them. Most Americans have no frame of reference for understanding the conspiracy. They dismiss the idea of a satanic conspiracy, claiming there is no proof, even as it surrounds them. For example, did anyone notice what Bill Clinton did when he waved at the crowd during his inauguration? The last article in this newsletter provides an answer. A friend of mine drew my attention to a story aired on Inside Edition about Louis Dupont Smith, heir to the $10 million fortune of the DuPont Chemical Company. Louis Dupont Smith has been exposing his family's activities. Of course, on national television, controlled by the Illuminati, they weren't about to reveal much, but they did allow a few hints to slip through. In one segment, Louis pointed his finger at powerful families as being the main culprits behind the drug trade. He was allowed to speak this truth because he was the driving force behind the book Dope Inc., which led to his falling out with his family. Lyndon LaRouche, a true exposer of the satanic conspiracy, wrote Dope Inc., revealing that the Queen of England is involved in the drug trade. Yes, the British royal family is connected to the elite, the occult, and the drug trade. They are not as benevolent as their public image suggests. Louis Dupont Smith recognized that Dope Inc. was the only book showing the involvement of powerful families in the drug trade. He provided $212,000 to fund the publication of the book, which was a brave and important move on his part. Let's be clear, the Satanic hierarchy is behind the global drug problem. His family was furious that he was helping expose these truths, and they had a judge declare him incompetent to manage his financial affairs, limiting him to just $15,000 a year from his fortune. The Dupont family also tried to stop his wedding. A federal informant saved Louis from being captured by his family, who had hired a motorcycle gang with black hoods and CIA Green Beret operatives to kidnap him. They planned to take him 60 miles into the Atlantic Ocean on his father's yacht to torture and brainwash him. Fortunately, Louis caught wind of the plot and managed to save himself. He tried to bring conspiracy charges against his family for attempting to kidnap him, but since the Dupont family is considered one of the top 13 Illuminati families, they effectively control justice in this country. He failed to hold them accountable for the conspiracy. One detail I didn't mention in the original story about the Duponts is that one of the more recent governors of Delaware, C. Douglas Buck, was married to Alice H. Dupont. I also omitted much of the intricate political maneuvering that has taken place in Delaware throughout this century. It is so detailed, with so many names involved, that I decided against including it to avoid overwhelming the reader. However, the key takeaway is that behind the scenes, every governor since the 1920s has had the approval of the Dupont family. I also debated whether to include the Dupont family genealogy. Since I had it available, I decided to share it, hoping that it might be useful to someone. The genealogy reveals several things. First, like the Astors, the Duponts have repeatedly used the same names through generations. Second, like the Rothschilds, the Duponts have engaged in a significant number of first-cousin marriages. If it seems like I've gone to a great deal of effort for little reason, I understand your perspective. We certainly don't need to know the details of every Dupont. However, much like a scientist conducting numerous experiments to uncover a principle, this is my attempt to break new ground and help people better understand the way the elite think and operate. My hope was also to track which branches of the Dupont family are aligned with the Illuminati and which may have distanced themselves. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe and I'll see you in our next video.